So this was Meghan's very first outing with the Queen. It happened right after her wedding to Prince Harry, and it was obviously extremely important and a significant occasion because it was her first outing with the monarch.
What if I told you the most powerful woman in media now regrets the one interview that built her legacy? Oprah Winfrey, the queen of sit-downs, the woman known for reading people like a book, is now tied to a moment she wishes never happened. And the wild part? She didn't admit it on stage or in public. It slipped out quietly, behind closed doors. One line about Meghan Markle changed everything. I should have never trusted her. That single sentence didn't stay hidden. It blew up fast. Suddenly Hollywood was buzzing with a story nobody expected. Now people are digging into what Oprah kept quiet for nearly 3 years, and how it's now shaking Meghan's world in a serious way. For years, Oprah said nothing about Meghan. No comments, no interviews, not even quiet insider talk. And that silence, it stood out. This is the same woman who gave Meghan a global stage, opened her home, and let her speak freely with no pressure, no tough pushback, no limits. Meghan shared everything. Tears, claims, her version of events, right in front of millions watching worldwide. Oprah didn't interrupt, didn't challenge, just let it all unfold. Back then, people called it historic, something that changed the culture overnight. But behind Oprah's calm image, things weren't sitting right. People close to the production started noticing small signs. Something felt off.
Now, someone with a sharp set of eyes has noticed perhaps a mistruth in the Oprah interview. Here it is.
She has a blanket that sits across her knees for warmth, and it was chilly, and she was like, Meghan, come on, and put it over my knees as well.
Was the move about getting away from the UK press, because the press is, is everywhere, or was the move because you weren't getting enough support from the firm?
Quiet whispers began that Oprah had doubts early on. Now, with new details surfacing, it's clear why she pulled back and kept her distance. Those small cracks? They've turned into something much bigger. Sources connected to the show say Oprah's doubts started right after filming ended. She invited Meghan and Harry to share their truth, but what she saw off camera reportedly shook her. A former assistant claimed Oprah told her inner circle, "This wasn't journalism, this was PR. I gave them the mic and they took over." That statement hit hard. Soon after, fact-checkers started raising questions, pointing out gaps in the story. Information from inside the palace started surfacing, and public opinion kept shifting back and forth. But Oprah stayed quiet. And that wasn't by accident. That silence had a reason behind it. And it didn't stop there. This wasn't just another controversy. This time, it got personal for Oprah. What she reportedly noticed during the interview changed how she saw everything. If you go back and watch it, you might catch it. The pauses, the looks, the moments where Oprah seemed unsure. At the time, people thought it was empathy. Now insiders say it was doubt creeping in, live on camera.
She told a story later in her Oprah Winfrey interview in 2021 where she talked about the moment that the Queen was more like a grandma to her because she saw that Meghan may have been cold and put a blanket over her legs as well. And it was it's a small detail and it's a smallish story, but it had significance because it showed the relationship that Meghan had with the Queen. It gave some insight into.
And it all circles back to one moment most people ignored: Meghan's chicken coop scene. It looked simple, warm, relatable. Just a quiet family setup. But behind the scenes, that moment raised serious questions. One editor claimed Oprah reviewed the footage twice. The first time she said nothing. The second time she reportedly told a producer, "This won't age well." And it wasn't the emotional stories or big claims that bothered her. It was that perfect-looking setup. The chicken coop looked too polished, too staged. Later, it reportedly came out that it had been set up shortly before filming, freshly painted and arranged. Once Oprah realized that, the whole moment felt different. Too perfect, too controlled. They don't want transparency, they want control, Oprah allegedly said. That's when her confidence started to crack for the first time. But what happened after filming ended made things even more intense. As the crew packed up, Meghan reportedly made a request. Not a thank you, but something else. She asked to see the final edit. That message quickly reached Oprah's team. And when Oprah heard about it, her response came immediately, and it wasn't soft. Absolutely not. This is my platform, not Buckingham's, not Meghan's. That response came fast and firm. No debate, no compromise, no guest, not even. Not her presidents had ever tried to preview or shape her final cut. But Meghan's side didn't drop it. Later that night, someone reached out again, pushing for the edit to match her truth. That phrase hit a nerve. Oprah built her career on honesty, raw emotion, no spin. And now this interview was starting to feel like a controlled production. From that moment, something shifted. Oprah began pulling back, quietly creating space from someone she had just given the biggest spotlight in the world. But then another message came in, this time from someone she trusted deeply, and it changed everything. Just days after the interview aired, while reactions were exploding online, Oprah got a text from Gayle King. At first, it seemed simple. You weren't the only one. Just wait. Oprah assumed it was about producers or network talk, but then came the follow-up, and it flipped the entire situation. Meghan pitched me the same idea, almost word for word. A full documentary concept. 3 parts focused on motherhood, charity, and life after royalty. And here's the twist. That same idea had already been pitched to Oprah. That overlap hit hard.
Has been noticed now from that clip is you can actually see from sort of a more of a bird's eye view the Queen with the blanket on her legs in the car on that day, and it's a little difficult to make out very clearly, but it does look like the Queen only put the blanket on her own lap. And again, it seems like a small detail, but it does speak to the relationship.
I thought I was helping her tell her story, Oprah reportedly said, but she was building her brand. What once felt like collaboration now felt calculated. This wasn't just business anymore, it felt personal, and it didn't stop there. The next layer came from inside Meghan's own circle. A stylist who worked on the interview stepped forward quietly. No attention, no spotlight, but what they shared raised serious questions. According to that account, Meghan appeared warm and kind on camera. But once filming stopped, the energy changed. The stylist claimed Meghan spoke about the interview like it was strategy. Oprah gives credibility. I give the story. That's the deal. Then came a line that stuck. All I had to do was pause and look sad. Oprah would fill the silence. For Oprah, that cut deep. Her entire career was built on trust and real conversations. Hearing that made everything feel different. And just when it seemed like it couldn't go further, another detail surfaced, one that came before the interview even happened. About 3 weeks before filming, Oprah reportedly received a private message from someone close to Prince Harry. Not media, not palace officials, someone trusted and low profile. The message was short but serious. Please be careful. Meghan's truth isn't the full truth. At the time, Oprah moved forward anyway. She had prepared, done her research, and wasn't going to stop such a major interview over one warning. But looking back, that message hit differently. After everything, Gayle's texts, the stylist's claims, Oprah reportedly admitted something to her inner circle. I should have asked more questions. I didn't want to challenge her, but maybe I should have. That realization stayed with her. Trust was given, but now it felt like key moments may have been missed. What started as simple regret quickly turned into something heavier, real disillusionment. And just as Oprah was still trying to process everything, another detail surfaced that, according to insiders, sealed the situation completely. After the interview aired, Meghan's team reportedly began planning another major tell-all. Another big sit-down, more revelations, more global attention. But one line from that internal pitch hit harder than anything else. Oprah wasn't enough. That sentence landed like a shock. This wasn't just disappointment anymore, it felt like betrayal. From Oprah's perspective, it suddenly looked different. The charm, the timing, the perfectly shaped story. It wasn't openness, it was strategy.
I want him to be a prince or a princess, not knowing what the gender would be, which would be different from protocol, and that he wasn't going to receive security.
What?
At that point, everything clicked into place. And one evening at exactly 6 p.m., Oprah reportedly made a call, not to Meghan, not to Harry, but to her executive producer. Her tone calm but direct. I want it clear. No more Meghan, no more Harry. We're done. When asked why, her response was simple but heavy. I gave them my platform in good faith. What they gave back wasn't truth. It was performance. That was it. From that moment, the shift was locked in. And the impact didn't stay private. In Hollywood, word spreads fast, especially when someone like Oprah steps back. What followed wasn't loud or dramatic, it was something worse: silence. Invitations stopped coming. Calls slowed down. People who once supported Meghan started keeping their distance. One insider from a major streaming platform reportedly said, "If Oprah steps away, we're not getting involved." That message spread quickly. The same industry that once embraced Meghan began pulling back. Not publicly, but quietly. Because when trust shifts at that level, people pay attention. Then came a moment that made everything even more clear. Just weeks later, at a major Hollywood charity gala, Meghan arrived expecting the usual warm reception. But the atmosphere had changed completely. The room felt cold. Conversations were brief. Eye contact was avoided. 3 well-known actresses, once friendly, reportedly turned away when she approached. One even told an assistant, "Tell her I'm not doing photos tonight." That moment spoke volumes. But it didn't stop there. Meghan noticed an empty seat next to her, reserved for Viola Davis, but Viola never showed up. According to reports, she had quietly asked to be moved once she saw the seating plan. That was the turning point. Insiders say that's when it became clear. The whispers had turned into open conversations, and those conversations had shaped a reputation that wouldn't fade quickly.
I do this for my family. This is not a surprise to anybody. It's really sad that it's got to this point, but I've got to do something for my own mental health, for my wife's, and for Archie's as well, because I could see where they're...
After that night, things only grew more distant. Meghan reportedly tried to reconnect, reaching out through mutual contacts, sending careful messages, trying to rebuild bridges. But the responses? Short, delayed, or completely absent. Hollywood had gone quiet, and that silence said everything. The influence she once held started slipping away, piece by piece. And eventually, one final message reportedly reached her through a shared contact. It was brief, direct, and impossible to misunderstand. Trust matters. Once trust is broken, it doesn't get airtime. That line hit harder than any headline ever could, because this time the damage wasn't about public criticism, it went deeper. Meghan had handled media backlash before, that wasn't new, but this was different. She wasn't being targeted by tabloids, she was being quietly cut off by the same industry she thought she had figured out. The narrative shifted fast. The woman once seen as a survivor was now being viewed as someone too calculated, someone who pushed too far. And that realization reportedly hit hard, because in Hollywood, it's not just about attention or headlines, it's about trust. And once that starts slipping, everything else follows quickly. Sources say Meghan turned inward, relying more on her close circle, especially Harry, trying to figure out what went wrong and what to do next. But even behind the scenes, things weren't steady. One former consultant described the situation as non-stop damage control. Meetings weren't about growth anymore. They were about fixing what was already falling apart. And through all of this, Oprah stayed completely silent. That silence carried weight. In that world, people don't just watch who Oprah supports, they watch even closer who she steps away from. One top executive reportedly said it clearly: when Oprah steps back, everyone pays attention. And nobody wants to be on the wrong side of that shift. Just when it seemed things might calm down, new problems started showing up. Deals that once looked guaranteed began slowing down. Meetings got pushed. Agreements stalled halfway through, nothing dramatic enough to make headlines, but enough to form a pattern nobody could ignore. From Meghan's side, the frustration reportedly kept growing. She followed the modern media playbook, shared her story, built her image, created attention. But what she didn't expect was how fast perception could flip when trust gets questioned. Hollywood can handle reinvention, but it doesn't like unpredictability. And that difference matters more than people think.
Really ashamed to say it at the time, and ashamed to have to admit it to Harry especially, because I know how much loss he's suffered. But I knew that if I didn't say it, that I would do it. And I just didn't want to be alive anymore.
If that's potentially not how it played out, it sort of changes how we view their relationship at that time, which is important.
One insider claimed Meghan privately said, "I thought people wanted honesty. I gave them honesty." But behind the scenes, the reaction told a different story. It wasn't just about what was said, it was about how it was presented. And in that space, that small detail changes everything. By now, this had moved far beyond one interview or one situation. It turned into a full reputation shift, the kind that spreads quietly through messages, private talks, and closed-door meetings across Hollywood. And once that kind of talk starts moving, it's almost impossible to stop. People begin stepping back. Projects slow down. Interest fades without anyone saying it out loud. What Meghan didn't fully see yet was that something bigger was building. Not just a setback, but a situation that could challenge everything about her next move. Because the fallout from Oprah's quiet but firm decision didn't stay private, it started reshaping everything around it. The impact didn't stay small, it spread across the entire industry. What once looked like an unstoppable rise started slowing down in a real way. From royal life to major deals, from global attention to California influence, it all began losing momentum. And the most unsettling part? There was no big scandal driving it. No loud collapse, just silence. The kind Hollywood uses when it wants to quietly erase someone without saying a word. What followed was even worse than controversy. Irrelevance. PR agencies that once competed to represent Meghan reportedly started hesitating. Studios that showed interest stopped following up. Streaming platforms that once saw huge potential suddenly paused everything. Projects stalled, conversations faded, deals sat unfinished. And insiders kept pointing back to one thing. When Oprah steps back, people notice. Because Hollywood doesn't just follow trends, it follows power. And Oprah's silence wasn't empty. It sent a message. Something had changed. And when trust shifts in that world, everything shifts with it. For Meghan, this hit differently than anything before. She had dealt with criticism, headlines, public pressure, but this wasn't loud or direct. It was quiet rejection. Emails left unanswered, meetings delayed, opportunities disappearing without explanation. That kind of silence is harder to fight. Even people who once supported her started stepping back, not openly but subtly. No conflict, just distance. Some insiders claimed there were growing concerns behind the scenes. Descriptions like too controlled or too strategic began circulating quietly. And once that kind of perception spreads in Hollywood, it doesn't need headlines. It moves on its own. Doors don't slam, they just stop opening. Meanwhile, Meghan reportedly tried to reset things, reaching out through shared contacts, introducing new ideas, even speaking positively about Oprah in public. But none of it seemed to land. The response stayed the same: short, distant, or nothing at all. And here's what many people didn't fully see. This wasn't just about one person. It was about Hollywood's unwritten rules. There's an invisible system in place, and when someone falls out of alignment with a major gatekeeper, the shift is immediate, even if no one says it out loud. Oprah's silence became more than just silence. It felt like a decision. A signal that carried more weight than any public statement ever could. Because in that world, even the idea that Oprah might have said, "I should have never trusted her," is enough to change how people move. Meghan, once seen as a powerful new voice, wasn't facing public backlash this time. It was something quieter but more serious: fading influence. And in Hollywood, influence is everything. It opens doors, builds connections, and keeps you in the conversation. Without it, everything slows down. Now, as Meghan steps into what comes next, one thing stands out clearly. In a world built on image, power, and trust, one broken connection can quietly close doors that once felt impossible to shut. If this made you look at things differently, stay tuned. There's more to uncover about how power really moves behind the scenes.